One thing that has to be noted is he deserves some sort of penalty for his haircut.
I was going to say that's how I knew instantly it was him.
His mum did it with a saucepan.
That would be charitable. Look at it; it was clearly not even a saucepan.
Two things about the haircut I'll quickly say is one, he was extremely pious. Some people say if he lived today, you would think of him as a complete extremist. That's how sort of pious he was. So maybe it's sort of a tip of the cap to sort of the monkishness, monasticism and things. The other thing is, if you look back at the Bayeux Tapestry, the original Norman knights, they had that haircut. And he thought of himself as a warrior king, like a warrior monk king. And so some say maybe he's deliberately harking back to the early Normans with that haircut. But yeah, no one had it before or since him for a long time. So yeah, it's a weird one. But Henry V, I'm insisting he goes in S tier. He's my personal favourite.
S tier. He's good, but he's not that good.
What's wrong? What
okay,
you say
okay.
is against him?
I mean, okay. Harfleur wasn't brilliant, right? Actually, not a brilliant siege.
Yeah, it was remarkable.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Why was it remarkable?
Strongly girded Harfleur. It's one of the most difficult positions in all of France to take.
and how many? He lost like a third of his entire force on the first siege. Yeah. That's not brilliant. That's not like there are other ways of doing these things, and actually bullishly going after the first fortified position and then losing a third of your force there. That does not a campaign make.
Well, a few things about Harfleur is it's not just like the first town they randomly came to.
No, but it's the first strong.
So yeah, So the French at that time, we'd actually lost control of the Channel largely, and from Harfleur they were raiding across us. It was like this den of like pirates and things. It had to be the first thing, and it was, as I say, extremely well defended. If anything, he did well to take it at all.
Yeah, I agree.
To lose merely a third of your men was still quite an achievement.
Sure,
I would say.
I'm not saying it wasn't an achievement to take it, but what I'm saying is I can't help but feel there could have been some guile involved in taking it that would have saved him a lot of hassle, right? So, like, it just felt, whenever I was reading about it, it felt very blunt. And it was, okay, great, if you've got an army of 50,000 men, you can do these kind of blunt things, but you've got 13,000 men.
So he could have sort of taken a leaf from some ancient Chinese generals whereby they would do all sorts of subterfuge to try and trick people out of a strong position.
Yes.
Like send fake letters to be intercepted or all sorts of things.
He could have done a lot of
divert
things.
Rivers.
A lot of things have been done in sieges throughout history that are very, very clever. And Henry didn't do any of these things. And he just invested it and sat there for a year or whatever it was, right?
He did a few things. So, for example, they took with them the heaviest cannon that had ever been cast. Was at Harfleur, and he kept offering the people of Harfleur to surrender, and they wouldn't. They were just really, really stubborn. Yeah. And in the end, they did. In the end, he said, "Look, when I get inside, I'll butcher every man, woman, and child if you don't give up now." And eventually, they did.
That's not remarkable. And that, again, you've lost a third of your army at this point.
But when we decide upon greatness, are we talking solely about achievement or legacy?
Well,
because if we look at legacy, he's become one of the great symbols of Englishness. He was their Nelson in terms of going up against the French, and a great sort of source of English identity and patriotism.
I haven't finished with my critiques.
Oh.
The next thing is, okay, let's assume he does as good a job as can be expected on Harfleur. That's all well and good, but again, you're in foreign land, you are in an insecure position, and your campaign goals are now radically changed, right? So whatever you're planning to do in this particular leg of the campaign has to be changed. And so they have almost a bloody depressing death march across the north of France.
Glorious death march.
Being chased by the French army. And it's like, okay, this is not a brilliant strategic move. What this is you coping with the fact that you kind of screwed up at the Siege of Harfleur, right? Like that should have gone better, and if you couldn't make it go better, you shouldn't have done it in the first place, because you are committing to something that you don't really have the forces to do, which is why you lost a third of your army. And so, yeah, coming to Agincourt, don't get me wrong, it's all well and good saying, okay, well, I do happen to have a brilliant English army, and yes, we can destroy an army like 3 or 4 times our size, that is true, but it shouldn't have been something that looked so grim, right? He should have been in a position where essentially he was just, the French should have understood that an English army was there and they were going to lose, rather than being confident they're going to win. Right. So the thing feels like it was skin of the teeth. Just pulled it out of the bag. Now I'm getting back to England. And what have you really achieved? The French are still out there. You've had to kind of retreat because your army's battered and you're all worn down. And this is not a winning campaign to me.
But it was a winning campaign.
Technically.
Well, now after Agincourt, the French had no reply for years.
Yeah, I know.
He went on to take Rouen and all of Normandy back.
Yeah, he had to go back,
the whole crown,
retool, hire new, recruit new men, and then come back again. But I don't think I personally view that campaign as something of a failure.
It's just an abject win. It's just a pure win.
It's not an abject win though, because Henry literally has to flee France after that victory with his battered army, and then come back afterwards with a fresh army and a retooled army. So it's not like I'm sure. I don't think they're in good condition.
I think your take on it's so glorious that your mind can't comprehend how
it.
glorious it is. Basically.
That's it, right?
Yeah. So, one of the things after Harfleur, there's an argument to be made. You should probably the most prudent, cautious thing to do is just return to England at that point. Whereas he's like, no, I'm going to recreate the chevauchés of Edward III.
Yeah, that's the point.
And it's so ballsy and glorious you can't.
I'm not saying it's not fun. I'm not saying it's not ballsy. What I'm saying is it's not S tier. Alexander the Great doesn't do this, right? Richard the Lionheart doesn't do this. You may be able to pull it off and pull it out at the very end with your ragtag plucky army, but the French were chasing you across France, and they stumbled into a big sort of trap.
In the end, he pwned them.
Yeah, okay,
thoroughly.
But he didn't know he was going to. And he didn't mean for it to go like this. He wasn't really in control of what was happening, right? And that's how I view whether this is a glorious, successful campaign of conquest, or whether it's you're kind of a bit bedraggled, rain-soaked, starving, and you just happen to have a plucky underdog victory. And this was the plucky underdog victory. I'm not saying that later on he didn't come back, defeat the French again, have himself put as the next king of France before he ends up dying of dysentery, etc.
Yes, I'll just say
I'm not saying none of that happened or anything like that. What I'm saying is I'm not that impressed with the first campaign there.
I think we're halfway through time-wise, and I think we've got many more kings to get through, I suspect.
I mean, if many historians pick for the greatest king,
he's not mine. I'm putting him in A. I mean, only A.
A travesty. Okay.
If you would like to see the full version of this premium video, please head over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to gain full access to all of our premium content.